Want to turn to the members of my legal panel now. Still with me, former prosecutor Elizabeth Emanuel, still here, and just joining us, criminal defense attorney Andrew Lynch. So great to have you both. Thank you so much. Let's talk a little bit about that. Haley Bustos, whether she may get a deal. And I want both of your perspectives coming from your areas of expertise. So Elizabeth, do you think from a prosecutor's standpoint, if she testifies well, gives that critical testimony to get those who the state feels are more culpable in this heinous act, do you think she should be offered an agreement either to the charges or to the sentence or to both?
I think that perhaps she should be offered an agreement to the sentence. What they have already is the fact that she has already talked to law enforcement. She has already been interviewed, so they can still use that if she decides that, oh no, I don't want to testify. They can still impeach her with the information that she gave them through the police interrogation. So if they don't want to offer her anything, they still have something to use against her if she were to turn and say, well, no, I really want this, because she's just, in my opinion, just as culpable as anybody else. I believe she is the ringleader. She set this up, and this really did cost the victim his life.
Elizabeth, thank you. Andrew, give me the opposite position. Give me the, let's say you are assigned to represent Haley Bustos. We know she's got counsel, and the considerations you're going to be thinking about in preparation for her to give testimony in this trial, and then what argument would you make to the state as to why they should give her a deal?
Absolutely. I actually completely disagree. She is less culpable. She's a young woman. She wasn't in the house when the murder took place. I don't believe there's any allegations that she set this person up to be murdered. Let me be clear. It is heinous. This crime is one of the worst you could imagine for a family to go through. But this young woman essentially was paid to go out on a date and set up a robbery. It is a fair fact that a prosecutor would say, look, you set up a robbery, someone died, that's felony murder. Too bad, too sad. But the short version is she is going to be instrumental. She is not the trigger person. She could be convicted of murder. She absolutely could be. But she's a young woman who is not the trigger man, does not appear to use violence. As her attorney, I would be looking for a charge reduction. I'd be looking for everything I can get, because she is in a dramatically different position than the people, as I understand it, that celebrated over this young man's dead body. It's a heinous crime, but I don't believe she was in that room. I don't believe she knew there was going to be a murder, and she cooperated, in the prosecutor's words, from the very beginning. What more could she have done to put right what she did and put wrong? The short version is I would be looking for a dramatic reduction in something not murder related.
Okay, so rejection of the charges. You're looking
Absolutely,
for okay,
both.
As to the charges and then
And
as to
the sentence
later. Okay, appreciate you both taking those opposite positions. Let's keep doing that. Let's talk about Andre Warner. This is great. I love when I have guests with experience on both sides of the courtroom, and you know how you have to work together on these cases. Right. It's just, I mean, our system would just collapse if we didn't have deals made, we didn't have agreements, you know, for testimony, and it seems to me they're being smart by not offering her anything right now. Let's see what she does before, right, Elizabeth? You wouldn't promise her anything.
Don't promise her anything. Let's see how she comes forward. That's what because to me, she really was the instrument that put all of this together. I still think that she's not as innocent as they're saying that, oh, she didn't know that they were doing all of this. I mean, you set these pieces in play. So I definitely feel as though by them not asking, not offering her anything just now, they want to see what she's going to do.
Right. Testify first, then we'll talk.
Right.
Andrew, do you find that commonly sometimes if you have a client with a situation like that where the state says, we'll talk later, let's see what happens?
I've had this case. I've represented the shooter's girlfriend. I've had it where they said, but what they're really saying is, if they offer a deal, that is exculpatory evidence for the defendant. He should have a right to know her bias, her motivation, her reason to embellish things that aren't helpful to him. And the point is, and this is something the people at home would never see, there's sort of a give and take between the prosecutor and the defense attorney, an understanding, hey, we don't have it in writing, but we know if this goes well, if my client delivers the goods, if my client is credible, cooperative, shows up, does what's asked, we all know the state is not bringing the full force of the criminal justice system against her. Period. Everyone knows that. The reality is the state has a different motivation, I think, many times, in not offering the deal in black and white, and it's so that the jurors don't hear when the alleged murderer's defense attorney asks, hey, do you have a deal? The witness can say, no, I don't have a deal.
Right.
My attorney's right over there. You feel free to talk to him.
And that's the truth, right? And they're going to have to tell the truth. And if
Right.
the truth is, yep, I got a special deal, then the jury's going to be less likely to believe him. Exactly. This is great. So let's talk about Andre Warner some more. This is the guy on trial, 30 years old. The state's seeking the death penalty against him. He's the first of these 4 to go to trial because the state believes he's the most culpable. They believe that he's the gunman. Let's talk about how the state wants to get that first-degree premeditated murder. And they could get premeditated murder or they could get felony murder here. Either way, they could still seek the death penalty. Felony murder being the death happening during the course of felonious conduct, that being the robbery, the burglary. Either way, let's talk about the intent here that you would need to have first-degree premeditated murder. And I want you to give me the opposite arguments here. And Andrew, this time I'll start with you. If you're representing Andre Warner, why would you say the state isn't going to be able to prove this was first-degree murder against him?
You're not going to like my answer.
No, it's okay. This is argument.
Andre
Go right ahead.
what I understand of the case is Andre has a tough road to hoe here. He really does. Think about it. They set up a dating app, a young woman to basically find a man to rob. She went on a date. They planned it out. What is more premeditated than planning in advance to find someone to rob, setting a young woman up on a date, and then coming to his house with essentially a robbing crew? Controlling the situation. And I honestly think that's probably why this is a death penalty case, why it is the worst of the worst. I can make the devil's argument for anybody, but think about what the allegations in this case are. They controlled the situation. They had multiple men. There was no fear of law enforcement injecting themselves in this situation. And then they just decided to shoot him in the back of the head. That is premeditated murder. The real question, I think, is why are they seeking the death penalty? And it's because it's heinous what they're describing. It is premeditated, it is planned, it is orchestrated. They've used technology, they're using multiple people. They've ruined, I think, 5 lives if you include the deceased, all through their actions. It would be hard put. I think the better argument for a defense attorney is why should their client's life be spared? And that you're going to have to create empathy, why he's a human being, how he ended up being the person standing in this house with the gun to this man's head, what went wrong long before law enforcement got involved. I think that is really the defense's challenge in this case. And there's a reason they picked him to go first. And it's pretty simple.
There is, and I do want you to argue for him. We have to take a break there, but I want the defense argument. I thought you were going to say there's a lack of physical evidence linking him to the crimes. They're going to show a DNA expert. They're going to talk about never finding a murder weapon. We'll hit all these things when we come back from Court TV Live. Andrew Lynch, Elizabeth Emanuel, thank you both so much.